Hi everyone, welcome to episode 4 of Simple Shogi Tactics. I'm going to once again take a look at a few positions from some of my games. In this one I had Sente, and I started off pushing the rook pawn. And let's just roll forward. I'm not going to talk about the game much, but just get to the position where the tactic shows up. And actually I passed it already, right here. So it's my opponent's turn to move, and he has a tactic here. So can you find a good move for Gote in this position? And pause the video if you want time to think about it. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. First of all, I didn't play this move, so let's make a branch. The good move here is bishop takes bishop. And why it's good is because after the gold takes, this gold is a loose piece here. So let's see. I can highlight a few things here. This gold is a loose piece, and this rook is also loose. So I've got two loose pieces, and if you think about it, you can drop the bishop here and fork those two pieces. So yeah, the bishop is hitting the rook, and it's hitting the gold. So a very simple tactic, and it's surprising that I keep falling for that over and over again. But there's more to the story than this. When this happens to you, you could just resign here, but there's actually a move here which limits the damage. So now it's Sente's turn. Two of his pieces are hanging. What's the best way? What's the best defense here? What's the best move for Sente in this position? And pause the video again if you want time to think about it. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. The best move is bringing the rook over here, because the rook blocks the view of the gold by the bishop. So you lose the exchange, but you're not losing an entire piece. And you know, I think at our level, at my level anyway, this is still a playable game. Sente will take and black will take back, and Sente here has a bishop and a pawn in hand and an open file to drop it on. And Gote has an extra rook, a rook in hand, and he can push this pawn forward, it looks like. So it's a good position for Gote, certainly, but you could still play on in this position. So that's something I wanted to point out. Okay, let's look at another game. It's another game I played recently. I had Sente again, so we can go forward to the critical point here. I had some ideas here. After Gote pushed forward the pawn on the diagonal from the rook, I noticed that there is this geometry here. There's a potential fork like this. So I decided to go ahead and play for that. It's not necessarily, just because you see a tactic, it doesn't mean you should play for it, but, well, it can be interesting. So I pushed the pawn. And he didn't allow the exchange, but he moved his knight up, or his gold up. He moved his gold up to block that diagonal. And I noticed the gold was defended by the silver there, so it's not a loose piece. But I had that idea in the back of my mind. I was still going to try and play for that tactic. So I left the diagonal open. I didn't exchange or block the diagonal, and I just played a few more moves. And then after a little bit of maneuvering, I pushed this pawn forward, and I realized he was going to take back, and that it would open up this file for his rook. So that would be a bad exchange. But I thought at this point, I could do the bishop exchange and fork, because when I pushed the pawn, it had dragged his silver away from defense of the gold. So here's your next tactical quiz. What's wrong with my idea? Okay, pause the video if you want some time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. I went ahead and played the tactic. I took his bishop. He took back, so now there's a loose silver here. And I was planning to fork the silver and the gold. And I dropped my bishop there to do that. And he just moved his silver where it was safe. So the silver is protected here. And I took the gold. And actually, after I'd already lifted my bishop up and dropped it even, and then it was asking me, do I want to promote? I noticed there was a problem with that move because the gold, of course, was not just defended by the silver, it was also defended by the knight. So he took back and I resigned. So that's a little mini series about the bishop exchange and fork tactic. You should always look for these tactics in your game, but you shouldn't get overeager. So even this pawn push here that I played to open up that diagonal maybe wasn't the best, although it's probably not bad here. But definitely going forward with the exchange the way I did was bad. And it's a bit surprising, but I often overlook this the fact that the knight's guarding this square or this square, the third file or the seventh file on the third rank there. Those files are guarded by the knight when it's at home, and it's just easy to overlook for some reason. So just keep in mind. In fact, the knights also guard these squares. So keep those squares in mind, that they have an extra piece guarding them that you might not see right away because it's hidden. it's a whole 2 steps away instead of just 1 step away. Anyway, that's enough on that. I had one more tactic I wanted to show you this game. Let's clear that and go to the next game. Okay, in fact, actually, this is the game I showed you earlier where there was this bishop exchange tactic. There was one point I wanted to mention here. So I opened up the diagonal, and my opponent moved a silver up, which is fine. I wanted to point out there's no tactic here because there's 2 pieces defending the bishop. It's defended by the silver and the gold. So if there were a bishop exchange here, whichever piece takes back would still be defended. So when the bishop drops, it's not a fork, it's hitting the rook certainly, but the piece over here is defended. So it wasn't until the next move when I moved the silver away from defense of the bishop. Now the bishop is only defended by 1 piece, and here the tactic is available, and then my opponent didn't play it, and I moved my silver into place, and now there's no tactic anymore. So it was a one-time opportunity that Gote had to play that tactic. Anyway, there's another problem that occurs later on in this game, another tactic, and I did manage to spot this one. So let's just go forward. Yeah, so my opponent's last move was a mistake, and see if you can spot the tactic for Sente here. It's my turn, and I have a good move in this position. Pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. So this time I spotted the idea. I'd seen this in another game, but I think it's pretty interesting. I just pushed the pawn forward here. And surprisingly, there's no good answer to this threat. The threat is just to take this pawn. I'm going to take the pawn in front of the knight. That was clunky. Let's clear that. I'm going to take the pawn in front of the knight there, and the knight has no square to move to. My rook is guarding this square, and my silver is guarding this square, and so the knight is actually trapped there. And what's funny about this tactic is that all that Sente needs to do is defend that pawn. But in fact, there's no move that defends it. There's no piece. The silver is not in a position to defend it, and the gold can't step up to either of those squares because there's pawns there. So there's no piece that Sente has that Gote has that can defend that pawn. So it's interesting. Yeah, if we back up one move here, it's easy enough to play your knight there and think there's no problems, there's no threats nearby. But in fact, this simple pawn move coming forward one step is an unstoppable threat. Now you can take. I think that's what he played. Yes, you take that pawn, but then I had a pawn in hand, so I can drop the pawn, and there's still no escape. So I guess let's back up to this position. There were two elements to this position. One is, I've got this pawn here that I can advance. And the other is that I have a pawn in hand, because I'm going to push this pawn forward, he's going to take, and then I'm going to drop my pawn. So let's see that in action again. So I pushed my pawn forward. Back here. I pushed my pawn forward, attacking the knight's head. He takes, and then I drop a pawn. So this is the kind of tactic you can look for. It's also a valid tactic against a bishop, although it's harder to trap a bishop. But sometimes the bishops are short of squares, and just threatening to attack the head of the bishop can be a big threat. So that's the kind of thing you can look for in your own games, and can be surprisingly effective. So that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.